Hey, friend. So, you want to be a bit more articulate, but maybe you just don't know how to. I'm going to share three different ways that I have found to be helpful in helping me be a bit more articulate. And stick around towards the very end to find out what one of the downsides, for me at the very least, of being articulate, if if I can consider myself articulate at all. Okay, so the very first one that I have, oh, by the way, I have an iPad here to read some notes. So that's why if you see me looking at on the side here, that's what's happening. Okay, so the first thing that helps me be a bit more articulate is to slow down. When I slow down, it helps me to one, formulate my thoughts a bit better, and two, I try to eliminate the ums and ahs and filler words that typically come with, well, being a conversationalist or being in an interview, because I have a podcast and I interview people. Okay, so by slowing down, I think a little bit more clearly. And as far as being on the listener side, I listen more intently because I'm slowing down. Simply slowing down helps me with that. The very second thing for me would be to, it goes without saying pretty much, is to expand my vocabulary. So English is like my fifth or sixth language, so it took some time I was not that well read before, and I'm still not that well read. I actually prefer to listen to books instead of reading. But every time that I run into a book, every time I run into a book, um, or I hear a word in a book, or even if it's just like I'm walking down the street and I see a sign or someone has a shirt with a word that I don't know, I get inquisitive about it. I'm like, I've never seen that word before. So by expanding my vocabulary, I'm able to articulate more eloquently, right? So I mean, I have a bigger bucket of words that I can select from in order to say the things that I want to say. So if we can just recap the first two things, one is slowing down, which tends to eliminate the filler words, right? And it allows me as a listener to listen more intently. Maybe we're gonna touch that on that a little bit more. And then the second thing is having a bigger bucket of words that would allow me to choose words. That that a bigger bucket that I can choose words to select from. And the more words that I have to express myself, the more clearly, not necessarily, but on average, the more clearly that I can express myself. It's hard to express yourself in a certain way if you don't even have the words to do so. And then, last but most certainly not least, engage in active listening. And this kind of ties into what I was already saying. And here's what I mean. Active listening, to me, it's quite a difficult one because it involves listening intently beyond listening to respond. So one of the ways that I combat that is when I'm listening to someone and I find myself thinking about their responses, listening so that I can respond to them, I pause and I have to think, okay, I want to force myself to listen so intently that when this person is done speaking, I'm going to repeat to them what they said to me to the degree that they agree with my repetition of what they said. If that makes all the sense, that's what I mean. And that's where the big challenge enters the equation, right? Is because I have to listen so intently because I'm going to repeat what this person just said. So it forces me to really listen. Am I good at it? No, it is a very difficult thing to do. I also have a podcast, so that kind of helps me to have to like listen a bit more intently. And it's not necessarily a debate type conversation, but with my friends and within like a debating type environment, I'm listening so that I can respond. I'm ready to punch down their what I think are idiotic propositions, or the ideas just don't make any sense, and I'm not like really listening to what they're saying. So it forces me to listen to what they're saying, because I'm gonna have to repeat it to them later on. And by doing so, it, it, by slowing down, expanding my vocabulary, and now being an active listener, it forces me to not forces me, but it makes it so much easier to, at the very least, appear to be articulate. And that's what takes me into the downside of being a well-articulated individual, if I can call myself that, is I found that for me, I use that as a tool to mask my incompetence. Let me explain on that. If someone brings up a topic that I'm not that familiar with, and let's say maybe they too are not that familiar with, and I sense that, right? I sense that. Instead of putting my intellectual humility at display and say, hey, tell me more about this. I don't know anything about it. I am more likely to use just an elevated language that on the surface it might seem that complex, it might seem that I know what I'm talking about, and underneath I don't really know what I'm talking about. So I did this quite a bit in college, where certain papers that I would write, I would use a language that would indicate that I know what is happening without actually like knowing what the heck is going on, right? So I would elaborate using sophisticated language, even though on the surface I don't really know what I'm saying. And if I'm having a conversation with someone that I sense that their level of knowledge about this particular domain is not that high, and they start to pretend to be so articulate in that domain, it's gonna make them not want to question my competence. And it's, I don't know if there's like a word for it, but it's a terrible trait to have. And knowing about that trait and actively combating that, it's certainly a challenge. But anyways, that's my 2 cents on the one of the downsides of being an articulate individual. But like I said, English is like my fifth or sixth language, so I'm by no means a what's the word? Oh, jeepers. The irony in this video is amazing. And this plays a huge part into the humility, right? It's like, well, I can try to use all these different words, all these big words that come to my mind, so that I can appear to be, and I'm speaking faster, by the way, so that I can appear to be more intelligent. I can appear to be, to know all this stuff. But it's just try to mask the fact that, well, I don't really know what I'm talking about. And in fact, I have some notes here, right? So it takes some humility to say, hey, in order for me to actually learn how to be an articulate individual, I need to slow down, like really slow down. I need to expand my vocabulary, reading more physical books, audiobooks, interacting with written language, and actually getting myself involved with conversations with real people using real language, and finding the spaces where I'm weak in, and putting what I say into actual practice. That's it. So if I appear to be articulate, it does not necessarily mean that I am that articulate. It does not necessarily mean that I know what I'm talking about. And by no means should it be a measure of someone's intellectual abilities. And this is going like beyond the scope of this video, but we see this in many areas: politics, marketing, politics. Okay, so just because someone is well articulate, just because you have learned how to be articulate, keep in mind that one of the downsides is masking your incompetence, masking your incompetencies behind your articulation, your ability to articulate things. Words are powerful for a reason. Anyways, these are my 2 scripts. Oh, okay. So I have a bonus, which was well, no, that was it. That was it. That was the downside. Okay, I've stolen too much of your time already. My name is Moses. Thank you so much for watching my video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.